All right, so we've got The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 7, the finale of the second season, and it is titled Convergence. Now, before we get into the episode, I want to give the spoiler warning for everyone. So, I played the game. I know what's going to happen for the rest of the series, most part. I mean, I'm sure they'll add some stuff here and there, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. Now, we will. That was confusing. I apologize. Spoiler wise, I will not be going past where the show is right now from the game. So if you haven't played the game and you've only watched the show, you're totally fine to just watch this recap and you won't have anything spoiled that you haven't already seen. Now, when I said I will talk about the supplementation, what I meant is there's certain adaptive changes that they've made from the game to the show, and I'll mention those here and there, but like I said, nothing you haven't already been exposed to plot wise, so you'll be good there. But with that out of the way, let's get into it. So, just overall, I sat down and watched the episode on Sunday night, and I liked it when I watched it. And I'm still like fairly positive about the episode. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, ooh, that didn't make sense. Which is not uncommon for me when watching shows and movies. The first time I see something, I'm usually like, oh, that was awesome. Even if it like wasn't necessarily. It has to be, especially if it's something that I'm invested in and I love the source material and the stuff that's come before it, it has to be incredibly bad for me to check out on a first viewing. Now I wasn't able to rewatch it, so maybe on a rewatch it would be different, but it's like I said, it's been pretty heavy lately, so I didn't rewatch it. But I did take notes while I watched it the first time. Overall, enjoy is not the right word. I like the individual pieces for the most part of the show, but I don't like how they were deployed, if that makes sense. And I'll get into more of that later. So I would say on the whole, I would give the season like a 7.5 out of 10. It did not hit the heights to me that season 1 did, which is a little disappointing, but I like some of the things they did. The performances were excellent throughout. So I don't want this to be like this was all Bella Ramsey's fault or something like that, because I don't believe that. I think they did a fantastic job as Ellie. I think I just have some issues with where things were put in storyline wise. And yeah, so we'll just get into the episode and I'll mention those things as they come up. All right, no cold open this week. We start straight at the intro screen, which I was happy with because we need to get rolling. I don't need to see a flashback. We just got a whole episodes of flashback. Let's go. Let's ride. So the no cold open, we go straight to the intro. At the end, it goes back to just being the one person standing there because obviously Joel is not here. We get to Dina and Jesse in the theater. Now, Dina, if you forgot, in episode 5, took the arrow to her thigh, and now Jesse took her back to the theater, and he's having to, like, do some first aid on her, some pretty intense first aid. So the arrow's in her leg, and Jesse says he can't pull it out because it'll tear the artery. He's got to push it through, which is probably just good advice for first aid in general. I mean, obviously, don't be out here just doing wild first aid stuff, but seemed like sound advice. So Dina's like freaking out. Obviously she's bleeding out, so she's scared. She's asking Jesse all these questions. Jesse tells her to shut up very aggressively, which it made sense to me when she's in shock, I'm sure, from losing blood, and she has a arrow in her thigh. So it made sense to me for Jesse to be like, Dina, shut up. I know what to do. Relax. I've got you. Jesse then like pours alcohol down the shaft of the arrow, trying to, I guess, sterilize it to whatever degree he can. He offers it to Dina. Dina says no. And hey, Brendy, how are you? Dina says no, and Jesse's like, what? No, like this is about to hurt. Like you need to drink some alcohol to dull the pain a little bit. She refuses again, and yes. So she refuses. Jesse pushes the arrow through Dina's thigh, and everything's all good, and they're ready to roll. What's up, Dad? How are you? Next thing, Ellie shows back up to the theater. She's beating on the door. Jesse goes to let her in. He questions her. He's like, "Hey, where were you? Like, why are you just now coming back? What's going on?" Ellie ignores him completely, walks to Dina, and she goes to check on Dina, but Dina's passed out because obviously she just had an arrow in her leg and had to have it pushed through. So, tough stuff. Ellie, Dina wakes up as Ellie comes in, and Ellie wants to know about the baby, if everything's fine. And Dina says the baby's okay. And Ellie's like, "Well, how do you know?" And she's like, "Well, I just know." The fact that in the game, when Ellie is going towards Nora, Dina doesn't even leave the theater. Dina stays in the theater because she has morning sickness and she like doesn't she can't reliably be out there, unfortunately. In the show, Dina is out there, and I liked it at the time before seeing the season as a whole because it gave us the cool moment in the warehouse and all that stuff. We get them talking as they're walking and stuff. So I liked it at the time, but the fact that Ellie doesn't come back to Dina when she knows she's been shot with an arrow is a real sticking point for me. It doesn't make sense because I get it. Ellie's hell bent on this revenge mission, but she's loved Dina for so long and it's never been reciprocated till recently. And now she's just like, "Oh, well, she got shot with an arrow, but Jesse's got her. She's fine." Maybe that's what I'm supposed to think, that Ellie is so convinced of Jesse's competency that Dina will be fine. And she like can't help herself but to go through and go to the hospital when she knows she should be going back. But I don't know. This felt a little odd to me, it just felt a little odd. And I had thoughts about Jesse and Ellie's relationship in the show, but we'll get to those later. Excuse me. So then Dina notices that Ellie's like beat up bad. And she tells Ellie to take her shirt off and that she's gonna like clean her up. And Ellie kind of she just has that 1,000-yard stare, And she tells Dina, "Oh, I made her talk. She gave me the whale and wheel words." And I don't know. This like I didn't mind it, I guess, but it was kind of just like, can you say aquarium? Like, isn't aquarium quicker than whale and wheel? Maybe Nora didn't think Ellie would know what an aquarium is because they're not like widely used anymore. I don't know. I didn't have a huge issue with it, but it did feel kind of weird. Um, Ellie tells her that, oh, Nora was already infected. She doesn't mention the spores, the spores to me are like pretty important for Ellie to mention, but maybe this isn't the right time because she's got other things on her mind besides the infection. So whatever, I can gloss past that. She tells Dina that Nora was already infected and that Ellie says again, "I made her talk and it was easy." Like, yeah, and you get this look from Bella Ramsey where there's conveying that like it was so that she's scared at how easy it was. Ellie is scared about how easy it was to torture Nora. She then tells Dina that she didn't kill Nora, she just left her there. Which that's I guess we're just like showing Ellie's depravity here. I always thought in the in the game when Ellie is confronting Nora, Nora's basically like, "Well, why would I tell you anything? I'm dead anyway." And Ellie's like, "Well, I can make it quick or I can make it much worse." So I always read that as, okay, Nora gave her the information and Ellie just killed her. Like Mercy killed her at that point. But I mean, of course, she beats her with the pipe in the game. That is part of it. But it doesn't sound like that happens here. She just leaves her there to just rot on B2 forever, which that is crazy. Um, Dina then says, "Oh, well, she got what she deserved," and Ellie like whispers, "Maybe she didn't. Like, maybe she didn't deserve that." It's like, okay, we're starting to see here, like Ellie is realizing like she took that too far. This is getting out of hand. Not that it wasn't out of hand from the beginning, but this next little bit of dialogue I just bumped up against so much. I don't understand why I was here. Ellie then tells Dina all about Joel in Seattle, or not Seattle, Salt Lake City, and she reveals why Abby killed Joel, and then just goes on this monologue about it. And Dina asks Ellie if she knew who they were. Ellie says no, but she knew what Joel did. Essentially, she knew what Joel did when he died. Dina then has this like, maybe Ellie is so built up with grief at this point, she's just got to tell somebody else. Like, she feels so bad about what she's just done that she needs to tell someone else. But even that doesn't make sense for what happens later in the episode to me. So I don't know. I just thought this was a weird inclusion here. But Dina then is very taken aback by this because, there's the talk about the cure and all that and all of that. And she's very taken aback. And then Dina says, well, okay, we need to go home. To which I was thinking, weren't you 2 episodes ago talking about how you would, like, you understand what Ellie's wanting and that you would chase your mother and sister's killer to the ends of the earth? And now all of a sudden you're just like, well, time to go home. And I guess it does change the calculus for Dina that, like, well, I didn't know it was going to be that crazy. I didn't know he murdered all those people in the hospital and blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. I brushed up against this because if it's a shift for Dina, but I can kind of see what she means. If you think about what's happened in between her saying that she would chase them to the ends of the earth and like, I'm with you all the way, Ellie, blah, blah, blah. They went to the warehouse. They were almost killed by the stalkers, if not for Jesse. They are then, running from the WLF and running to the park and get shot with an arrow. Again, almost killed, if not for Jesse. Hello, Ella. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. They then are in the park, and would have been killed if not for Jesse. And so maybe Dina's thinking, well, this was my read after more thought about it. She's just like, that changes it that Joel did all that. So, like, maybe he did deserve it, which I have always been of the mind that, yes, he did deserve it, but, whatever. But then I think the other thing is playing on Dina is that we're in over our heads. This is too much. We cannot do this. There's been no inkling this season that either of them are competent enough to carry out this revenge mission. And that's fine if that's the story they're trying to tell. But that's not the story from the game. I talked about this a few recaps ago where people were complaining that Ellie seems like she doesn't know what she's doing. And my response to that was, well, if she was running out here like John Wick, like she does in the game, and she's killed 30 WLF soldiers and Seraphites at this point, you would all be complaining that doesn't look realistic. I still stand by that, but I think they should have given us more of Ellie and Dina showing their competency. And maybe they're just trying to show that they're not competent. And if that's what they're doing, they did a good job. But I don't like this view of Ellie where it's like, oh, she's not she can't do this. She needs all this outside help. She gets outside help in the game, but I never doubted while playing the game that Ellie could do this. And maybe that's because I'm playing and I know that, like, I can die as many times as I want. I can keep playing. But in the show, I would have liked more development on Ellie showing that she's capable, because it just doesn't make sense to me that she's this inept at being able to carry out this revenge mission when she has spent all the time with Joel, seen how he operates. She's been on patrol a lot of times, so we know she can handle infected. I just don't like the way that they're portraying Ellie in that sense. By the end of the episode, I've heard some people say they're like, well, I don't even like Ellie. I don't even like her. And that's fine, because the choices she's made along the way, I don't agree with. Like, this idea, like, you got to get your lick back all the time is miserable. And it just leads to this and this and this. But I don't know. I understand that they're probably trying to show the viewer that Ellie and Dina cannot do this by themselves. And they shouldn't have come in the first place. But that's not how it feels to me when playing the game. When playing the game, it feels like, okay, we're able to work our way through this. We're doing X, Y, Z. We can do this. But whatever. Okay, where was it? Okay, then it cuts to our title card, Seattle Day 3. Ellie gets some ammo from Jesse. They're gearing up to go out. And this, again, didn't make sense to me. Because Dina is pregnant, and in the show, they leave her there, but she's sick, and Dina's sick so that she can't, be out on the street. But it's clear that, she's okay enough that if something happens at the theater, she can probably take care of herself. But in the show, she has an arrow and she can barely walk. I don't understand why they're both going. I mean, I understand narratively why they both have to go, but practically it doesn't make sense to me that they would be like, oh, Dina's pregnant. She just got shot with an arrow. She can barely walk. It's fine. We'll just leave her here and come back and get her later. So again, I'm just brushing up against this stuff that doesn't make sense to me. But regardless, Jesse does offer to go alone if Dina wants Ellie to stay, but Dina says no. And even then, it's just like, well, what if... I mean, Ellie clearly won't stay. Ellie's going to go regardless because we've seen her do that over and over and over. But at this point, Ellie has to learn her lesson. If they're going to paint her as this inept, incapable person in this situation, they cannot continue to barrel her headlong down these precarious paths. And again, maybe it's the idea that her need for revenge is like an addiction and she can't give it up no matter how incapable she is of enacting it. That may be what they're going for. I don't like that. And maybe that's where I'm just brushing up against it. But Dina gives Ellie the bracelet for good luck. Ellie's like, oh, I'm not so sure it's been working for you. But Dina says, well, I'm alive, so I think it is working. Blah, blah, blah. Ellie and Jesse are leaving the theater to go find Tommy. Now, Tommy and Joel... I'm messing up my J's today. Tommy and Jesse were supposed to meet at a bookstore, and the bookstore's not far away. They're making their way to the bookstore. Jesse then again questions Ellie where she was last night. Ellie again dodges the question, doesn't answer it. Jesse then reveals that Shimmer is fine, not that you asked, but we get confirmation that Shimmer's okay in the record store. All good, because Ellie wants to know how Jesse and Tommy found the theater. And Jesse was like, we basically retraced your steps. We found Shimmer in the record store, then we found that, blah, blah, blah. He then questions if Dina's pregnant because Jesse brings up the fact that he offered Dina whiskey, the girl who's never turned down a drink in her life, and she refused. And Ellie is surprised because Jesse was just bluffing. He was like, oh, I think this, but I'm not sure. And then Ellie confirms it and blah, blah, blah. Jesse says, I can't die. I've got to get me and my kid out of Seattle, and this is your fault, basically. Now, I'm not a writer, to be clear. I don't understand how to craft these stories. But I'm tired of seeing in shows and movies characters who, again, spoiler alert for this episode, Jesse dies at the end. I hate it when the character's like, well, I can't die, and I know you're dead at that point. Even if I didn't know what was going to happen, I already knew. So that brushed up against that line as soon as he said it, and I'll get more into this in a little bit. But I also don't like the dynamic between Jesse and Ellie being so adversarial. Because in the show, in the game, it is not that way at all. I don't enjoy this butting of heads and adversarial nature of their relationship. But I'll get into that in a minute. Their conversation is interrupted because they hear some gunshots down the street and they kind of run into a parking area behind some dumpsters. I don't know. There is a Seraphite that runs in. And at first I thought that the WLF were chasing, that they had seen Ellie and Jesse because they are standing out in the broad fucking daylight in the middle of the street. And so that I was like, okay, I've been complaining about that. Maybe they finally saw him. No, it was them chasing a Seraphite, which is fine. Like maybe they just got lucky again. I don't know. A lone Seraphite runs into the parking garage. Some WLF soldiers arrive, and we see that it's actually, I think his name's Burton. He's from the flashback with Isaac when Isaac first turned from Fedra to the WLF. He is now with this little patrol. It's called the Seraphite. The WLF soldiers drag him out. They're definitely going to kill him. I mean, we've seen piles of bodies and what they've been doing to each other, so there's no question that he's going to kill this young Seraphite. Ellie then like jumps out or tries to jump out like she's gonna stop him, and I don't know. I didn't understand why. Like all of Ellie's actions up to this point have been selfish, totally selfish, because she has only worried about her revenge. I want to get revenge for Joel. I don't care what happens in the process. I don't care that Dina gets shot in the leg. I don't care that I'm putting my new girlfriend who's pregnant in danger over and over and over and over again. And just some things that happen later in the episode. She's shown so many times that she doesn't care about anyone but herself. But here she wants to save this random Seraphite? I don't. It didn't make sense to me. Now, after the episode, Craig Mazin said that the reason she wanted to save the young or the Seraphite is because Ellie saw herself in Seraphite. And I can kind of see that to an extent, but like her actions are not matching up. Her actions are not matching up to her kind of driving force this whole season. So it didn't make sense. Jesse stops her and is like, "What are you going to do? There's 6 of them. There's 2 of us, 6 of them. Like this is not our war. We've got to we got to let this go. We have bigger fish to fry, basically." And I was like, "Okay, Jesse, I agree. Bigger fish to fry. Let's get moving." And then, so the WLF soldiers take the Seraphite out to the right, and like 10 seconds later, maybe Ellie and Jesse just walk out on the street right where they were. And I was like, are they not right there? Like, what? We couldn't have waited like 20 minutes, maybe? Just let them get on down the road. So I guess this is just pacing issues I have, but regardless, I know I'm complaining a lot. And this was not my favorite episode of the season, I will say that. But I still enjoyed the spectacle of it and some of the beats that we got. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. We cut from Ellie and Jesse to a WLF base. And Sergeant Park, who you'll remember from 2 episodes ago, is the one who discovered the spores. Well, I guess her son discovered the spores. Down on B2 in the hospital. And Sergeant Park is meeting with Isaac. She gives him a report that, hey, 2 storms are converging, which is the title of the episode. So that's good. The orders have been sent. Like, we're all set for whatever they're planning. Their conversation indicates that the WLF soldiers are nervous about this mission or operation, whatever they're doing later. Isaac asks Park, "Hey, has anybody heard from Abby? Where's Abby? We haven't seen Abby. Where's Abby?" Blah 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 blah. Park says nobody's seen her since yesterday. They can't find Owen. Mel is also missing. The entire Salt Lake crew, which is what Abby and her cohort are referred to, they've disappeared. Except Manny. They have Manny. To which Isaac replies, "Well, we've got a lot of Mannies. I don't really care. The Manny's still here. We've got enough Owens and enough Mels, but we only have one Abby." And Park questions him. He's like, "Are you in love with her or something?" Like, what is going on? Isaac says no. He then looks at Park in this like chilling line and says, "You and I will probably be dead tomorrow. She is the one who's supposed to pick up the mantle and lead this army. We do have an army. We have a large army with a badass name, the WLF, but they're mostly sheep. Abby is a wolf, and we need her in charge. So we need to find her." The scene itself was very powerful. I was like, okay, they're giving us some information about why Abby is so or that Abby is so important to the WLF, because I've heard some complaints about people acting like, why is the Salt Lake crew so down to follow Abby no matter what? And this is showing that, like, okay, more people are feeling the same way about Abby, that like, hey, we're gonna follow her no matter what. I like the scene. I think it's fine to have the scene in this episode, but I wish there would have been more information about Abby before now. If you're going to give us these bits and pieces of Abby's story when Abby's not really on the screen that much, I needed more of that to make this feel worthwhile. I would have, up until this point in the game, we haven't seen Abby again. The only time we've seen Abby is when she kills Joel, and then again in the theater when she confronts Ellie. I would have preferred them to go either one of the two ways. Either give us more Abby in this season so that we understand her a little better, not too much, but a little more, or just not again. We don't see Abby again until she comes in the theater. I don't like how they kind of hedge their bets here with this. Again, the scene was awesome. I mean, as much Jeffrey Wright as you can give me, great. But I brushed up on the placement of this. The scene is fine. I don't think it was placed correctly. Again, I won't get into where I think it should have been placed because I don't want to spoil anything. After Isaac tells Sergeant Park that, well, Abby's the one that's supposed to lead us, Sergeant Park's like, well, she's not here, so maybe she's not the one to lead us. And we cut back to Ellie and Jesse, and they're at the bookstore. Well, Tommy isn't there. So Ellie's like, what if he's in trouble? We gotta go out and look for him. And Jesse hits her with this line. He's like, we're all in trouble. Like, everybody's in trouble here. Because of you, basically. You have brought us here. This is where, in the game, I hate to keep mentioning the game, but that's what this is based on, so there's really no way around it. In the game, Ellie is sent to Seattle by Maria to get Tommy, because Tommy's gone ahead of her to get the revenge, essentially. Now, though, that by Ellie leaving and taking Dina with her, she has essentially dragged Tommy and Jesse to Seattle. That's where we get this confrontation where Jesse's like, well, this is all your fault. None of us would be here if you didn't leave. And again, I'm brushing up against it because I get the point that Tommy needed to stay back in the show because he has a family or whatever, but I just think it works better to have Tommy go ahead so that Ellie is constantly chasing Tommy. I think it adds more to the season to where Ellie's not so single-minded focused. Because you're giving me conflicting stuff here. You're showing me she doesn't care about anyone but herself, but then you're also giving me this scene where she's chasing or wants to save this random Seraphite she doesn't even know. And again, I wish they just would have picked one and just stuck with it, but they didn't. So they're in the bookstore, and Ellie finds a baby book. It's a cookie. Well, it's a Sesame Street book that's like the monster at the end of the book or something. I'm not sure what it's called. We see she opens to the end, and Cookie Monster is like dumping something into his mouth. It looks like a bunch of stars, and I thought that was like a cool parallel that like he's devouring everything, and Ellie's kind of doing the same thing as she's on this revenge tour. So that was cool. I liked it. Ellie takes it. Jesse's like, oh, that's a good idea. I should have taken one. And then Ellie doesn't really know what to tell Jesse next. They get into this conversation where the gist of it is like, maybe they'll all die. But Jesse then softens a little bit on Ellie and says like, I do love Dina, but not like you do. And it was like a cool, it was a cool difference for Jesse to kind of show some affection to Ellie, to be like, we are friends. Like, I understand this is what's going on between you two, and I'm fine with it. But I wish they would have given us more. And like I said, I'll get into Jesse and Ellie here in just a second, deeper. Jesse then tells a story about a girl he fell in love with from Alberta, and that he just kept buying crappy paintings from her because that's what you do when you like somebody, you take an interest in their interests. And he talks about he gives this really good line where he talks about that magic feeling when you're falling for someone and you can tell they're falling for you. I'm sure we've all experienced that, So that was nice. Ellie's in like, well, where'd she go? And Jesse's like, well, it was the best 2 weeks of my life, but she couldn't stay. And Jesse's like, I wanted to leave, but I didn't because I owe Jackson. Jackson took me in, and that everyone's counting on me to be the next Maria, so I have to be there for our people. Our people come first. Ellie is in like, oh, St. Jesse of Wyoming is way better than all of us, and blah, 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 blah. And then they start going at it again. And then Jesse's like, okay, riddle me this, Ellie. If I go to Mexico with them, who comes to Seattle to save your ass? And then their conversation is cut short because the radio goes off about a sniper in the area. Now, I've heard some people be like, well, how do they know? They immediately are like, it's Tommy. It's got to be Tommy. Well, Jesse does anyway. And I've seen some people brush up against this, saying that, well, how does Jesse know it's Tommy? If you listen to the radio, what the WLF soldiers are saying is like, sniper has us pinned down on the South Pier, lone male sniper, not a scar. So they've already said, hey, it's not a Seraphite, and if it's not a Seraphite, who else is running around, with the blicky shooting people? It's probably Tommy. They go up to the roof to try to like scout out the area and see if they can basically look and see if they can locate where Tommy is. The backdrop here looks incredible. They did such a good job in the CGI of Seattle looking overgrown, and that part looked great. Ellie then sees the aquarium. She sees the wheel and the whale, puts it together, and it's like, that's where Abby is. And it's pretty far, but like she can see it. Where they think Tommy is a completely different direction. Jesse is like, hey, we're going to get Tommy. And Ellie says, no, we don't even know if it's him. Like, we shouldn't do this, blah, blah, blah. And it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense to me because Ellie has a chance to go save Tommy. And she just tried to save this random kid she doesn't even know, but she won't go save Tommy. Now, again, maybe it's because she's so focused and now she's seen the aquarium and she knows where Abby likely is, and she's going to go there. In the game, Ellie makes a better argument, in my opinion. Because since they are chasing Tommy, Ellie says, well, Tommy probably found out that Abby's at the aquarium as well. We should meet him there. And they get into this argument in the show. Well, let me say why I like the argument in the game better. In the game, it works for me because it's like, okay, that makes sense. Like, he probably was able to get that information. He likely will be making his way towards the aquarium. Like, okay, cool. But, I mean, she still should have gone to help him out. Probably because he does sound like he needs help. Jesse is in like, well, what if he's in trouble? Like, what if he needs help? And Ellie is like, well, he's got him pinned down. And Jesse says, well, they're calling for backup. And he's like, well, he'll pin them down too. And it's just like, all right, fine, but whatever. They then get into this argument, and Ellie's like, he would have wanted me to do this. If a couple more people like you voted yes, we would have had the posse and we would have gone. And that's when Jesse reveals, I voted no. I didn't vote yes for you to go on this mission. I voted no. Because it's not good for the community. The community needs you all there, not out on this revenge mission. And Ellie gives this speech basically like, screw the community, you're a hypocrite. Ellie says that her community was beaten to death in front of her. So this idea that she's not part of, she lives in Jackson, but she's not really assimilated to the people of Jackson. And so she doesn't feel like she's a part of that community. And her community is just what was just her and Joel. And so they've been painting. I didn't brush up against this as much because they've been painting this picture the whole series really that like the us for Ellie is Joel, and that's it. Now Dina's been brought into that, and there's some other people on the periphery, but that's really the us for Ellie is Joel. So that's fine, whatever. She then like throws the Seraphite kid back at Jesse, and she's like, "Well, you let that kid die today because he wasn't in our community." And this is why I was like, "Is that the whole reason we had that scene so Ellie can say this one line?" Like, it doesn't make sense. You just said you don't care about anyone outside of your community of you and Joel, but you're throwing this person that you just admitted you don't care about into your community now. It just I didn't track this very much. She then says like don't act like you know what it's like to be in my shoes or say that you would make a different decision because you're not in my shoes and you don't understand. That to me was powerful. I was thinking, okay, that's a good argument basically. I understand that. Jesse then is like, "Well, I really hope you make it." And he leaves and they split up. That is the whole reason that Ellie and Dina have to leave the theater together in the show. Is so we get this moment where they split up. It almost feels like they reverse engineered it to where like, okay, we need these certain things to happen, and how do we get the two characters in this place to make the thing happen? And I don't like that. I don't like it because I don't like the dynamic between Ellie and Jesse in the show. It's very adversarial. We're supposed to believe that they're like friends, and we've seen Jesse like helping her out, training her, and blah blah blah. But we haven't really seen Jesse be warm and like friendly to Ellie. I mean, they were clearly close enough that Joel thought Ellie might have a crush on him. Like, I needed to see some of that to really buy into this relationship at this point. Because I'm not saying that friends shouldn't challenge their friends when they think they're doing something wrong. Because in my own personal life, I've had these conversations with friends where I think they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, or they're making decisions that I don't agree with. And I've been the person who has said like, "Oh no," and like had the confrontation with them. So I don't have an issue with the confrontation happening, but I need to see some of the stuff prior to that to fully flesh out their relationship so that I know, oh, Jesse does actually care about her and he's just frustrated with how she's acting. Because it doesn't come across that way in the show. In the show, it comes across as Jesse doesn't like Ellie. That's how it came across for me this whole time. So I didn't like it, but they split up. I don't know what I meant by that, but whatever. We cut to Isaac. He's shaving for the battle or the mission or whatever they're about to do. We then get this really cool shot of the bay where the storm's coming in. There's lightning. You see the Ferris wheel illuminated by the lightning. It looked amazing. I like that. Ellie is working her way to the dock to get a boat to cross the bay to get to the aquarium. Now, when she gets to the dock, there's two WLF soldiers walking across the dock. And this look Bella Ramsey gives in this moment was incredible. At first, there's just two soldiers. And Ellie pulls her gun out, and it's clear she's about to shoot these fools and take the boat. But then we see a light from a boat, like out on the bay. And it's pretty close. It's coming in. And with that light, we see 20 more lights or so show up, and I really like that visual. It was incredibly powerful. And so Ellie's like, "Okay, can't do this. Like, I can't be taking all these fools out. So let's lay low and see what happens." They leave. They turn all the lights out, and they're going towards this island. The WLF is, but there's one little John boat left, kind of like on the screen right now. This little John boat. Ellie then gets the boat, starts it up, and she embarks on the rough waters towards the aquarium. We get some more really cool shots of Seattle and the aquarium. like I said, in the middle of the storm, getting lit up by the lightning, and it was all cool. A giant wave comes up and knocks Ellie off the boat. And that happens in the game, and like makes sense. The waters are pretty rough. This huge storm's coming in, so all right, cool, cool, cool. This next scene, I enjoyed it for the spectacle, but makes no sense to me why it was there. Ellie washes up on shore, and at first I was like, okay, she's washed up at the aquarium. She's gonna climb up, continue through the events of the show. But that's not where she's washed up. Ellie is washed up on Seraphite Island. And I was like, what? Why is she here? Like, what's going on? I'm confused. Like, what? Also, the boat she was in, I think it's the boat she was in. Maybe it's another boat. I don't know. But it's just conveniently right beside her. And I was like, okay, well, she's just going to hop in the boat, leave, I guess. But then a Seraphite kid is on the beach and sees her, and like Ellie's crawling back to the boat, and she hears the whistles, and it's like, oh, she's about to get captured. I was like, this is odd. How's she gonna get out of this? And so the Seraphites capture her, and they're like, they have the noose ready, which was also odd. I mean, maybe they've just got these like little hanging stations set up ready to go. They've got the noose there. They start to string her up, and I'm like, how is she gonna get out of this? Like, I was thinking like maybe Tommy and Jesse are gonna save her, but like, why would they be all the way out here? That doesn't make sense. Blah blah blah. The torchlight looked very good. I always like when they use that with the Seraphites. Um, they're stringing Ellie up, and she's like, I'm not a wolf. I'm not a wolf." Like blah blah blah. I'm not a wolf. And she looks at the kid who saw her on the beach. And is like, tell him, I'm not a wolf." And he basically like, I have to stand up to do this. He gives a signal like he doesn't care, like he doesn't do this, but he's like he's saying like, nope, gutter. I don't care. And so they're getting ready to disembowel Ellie, and a horn goes off in the background, and they're like, oh, we got to go back to the village. Something's going on at the village. Just leave her. Let's go. They just leave her there. They run off and leave her, and I didn't, like, what? I don't understand why they would just leave her. Other than, like, Ellie has to make it to the aquarium, but again, why is this here? I know why it's here, but if you've just seen the show, it doesn't make sense for them to put that here. It was a cool scene, but it doesn't serve a purpose for me because they've got the noose around her. Like it doesn't take that long to disembowel someone. We saw them do it a couple episodes ago. It took like 20 seconds. Like they could have done this real quick and just kept going. I understand narratively they cannot because Ellie's got to make it to the aquarium, but really weird to me. But they run off. Ellie drops down, goes back to the boat, and starts heading towards the aquarium again. We then get these big explosions that are going off on the island she just came from, and that's some stuff for later that I won't share here. Ellie then makes it to the aquarium. She breaks in and finds their bunks. She dries her bullets off, and she sees some bloody bandages. And we get some really cool aquarium sights here. We get the shark and just walking through the aquarium. It's pretty cool. She then sees some wet footprints to a stairwell. She follows those footprints and she hears two people arguing, and it's Owen and Mel. Owen and Mel are arguing where Owen is saying like, I want to go save Abby, blah, blah, blah. Abby's the one who he wants to go save Abby. Mel's like, absolutely not. I'm not going, like, for the simple reason that it is Abby. Like, we're not going to save her. And Owen's like, well, whatever. If you're here when I get back, cool. Blah, blah, blah. Ellie comes around the corner with her gun out, and Owen is absolutely shocked. He's like, God, I don't know. I don't remember what line he says, but it's clear that he recognizes her. He's like, oh my God, this girl's back from Jackson. Owen, like, Ellie's got the gun on him, and Owen's like, don't forget, I'm the one who kept you alive when Manny wanted to kill you. I kept you alive. Ellie is in like, where's Abby? Where's Abby? They deny. They're like, well, we don't know. And Ellie's like, yes, you do. And she's gonna use the interrogation technique that she learned from Joel in first season, where she makes one of them point to the map, and then but they don't say it out loud. She makes a second person point to the map, and they better match up. Owen, she points to Mel to get Mel to do it, and Owen's like, no, 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 I'll do it. And so Owen is like, I'm gonna move slowly, slowly. He goes to the map, and kind of in a little shelf under the table, there's a gun. He pulls the gun, turns to Ellie. Ellie shoots him through the neck, and he's dead, obviously. But we get this shot of Mel, and we see that it's grazed her throat, and she's now bleeding out. So Mel is freaking out. She's like, I've got 30 seconds. I need you to get over here now, and blah, blah, blah. Mel opens her coat up. The reveal that she's pregnant is shown to everybody, and she's like coaching Ellie through how to perform a C-section. And I was like, what is happening? Why is this here? I don't need to see this. Like, I've seen enough. I've seen enough. It's already bad that she's, even inadvertently, killed this pregnant woman. I don't need to see this C-section. And luckily we don't get it. But Mel is like coaching her through it and saying like, oh, you're doing a great job, even though Ellie has done absolutely nothing. And Mel then asks like, oh, is it out? Blah, blah, blah. Ellie just can't do it. And Mel dies. Ellie's then crying unconsolably, of course. And she's just like staring at the body. And we get this shot where she pulls the Mel's shirt down back over her stomach. It was just like in the game. Absolutely just gut wrenching. I don't mind the change, and I'm glad they didn't have Ellie do the C-section, because that is, I just didn't need to see that. Like, that would have just been gratuitous to me at that point. And I guess this is to reinforce the idea that like Ellie is so hell bent on this revenge mission, and she doesn't know what she's doing in anything. But I've already spoken about how I don't like how they're painting her out that way, but whatever. Tommy and Jesse then find her, and they both see Mel, like that you can tell Mel's pregnant, and they're kind of freaking out. And Tommy's like, "Hey, it's okay, like it's fine." Blah blah blah. Gets Ellie up off the floor. Jesse looks horrified though. He is just staring at the body and looks just horrified, which I mean, rightfully so. We then cut back to the theater, and Ellie looks just shell shocked. Once again, she has done something horrible, and she's just shell shocked. I don't know. Dina looks very concerned about Ellie. There's just a quick shot, and then Dina goes to lay down back in the back of the theater because she's obviously still dealing with her wound. And Tommy is planning like how they're going to get back. And they're going to leave tomorrow, and Ellie walks in, and Tommy is basically trying to like tell her it's okay, like they got kind of what they deserve type speech. He basically says that they were part of it and they made their choices, and this is where they ended up, and that's all there is to it. I don't think that justifies it, of course, but I mean, I think that's just what Tommy has to tell himself to continue to move on. Ellie then says, okay, so we're leaving tomorrow. Abby gets to live, though. And Tommy's like, yeah, are you okay with that? Or is that okay? And Ellie's like, well, I guess it has to be. Which is not, no, that's okay. I've learned my lesson now. I've seen all this violence. I've done all these violent things. I understand now that this was stupid. And like we just have to let Abby go and move on. Tommy then is like, oh, I'm going to go pack the duffels. Let's get ready for tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. Ellie thanks Jesse for coming back to save her. And Jesse says maybe Tommy made him. But then he says, but that's not true because he wanted to come back and save her. Jesse then says if he was lost and in trouble, Ellie would set the world on fire to save him, to which Ellie says, I would. Now I'm brushing up against this too in the show because we just saw her with Jesse say, I don't care about Tommy. I'm going to do what I need to do. And in the game, it makes more sense because we have gotten more interactions with them and it's clear that they are friends, like close friends. So in the game, if that line would have come up, it would have made sense. It did not make sense to me in this instance because I haven't seen them be warm and friendly to each other. So once again, I was kind of just like, would you? I don't think so, but all right. We then hear a noise in the theater, and Ellie and Jesse run headlong up the aisle, out the doorway, not checking any corners, not, slowly moving. No. They run out. Jesse gets shot in the face. He's dead. Ellie, crouches behind the bar area in the theater, sees Jesse's corpse, and Abby is here. Abby is at the theater. She shot Jesse, and she tells Ellie to get up or she's going to shoot Tommy as well. Tommy's on the ground, kind of under her foot, maybe. I don't know. He's on the ground. Tommy tells her to run. He's like, just leave me, just run, get out of here. And Ellie's like, okay, stop. She throws her gun out. She's like, all right, it's fine. Ellie comes out, hands up. Abby recognizes Ellie. So this is the first time she knows who did this. Because remember, in the show, Tommy wasn't there with Joel when Abby killed him. So she doesn't know who Tommy is. She doesn't know who Jesse is either. But she knows who Ellie is. And Ellie asks Abby to let Tommy go. Abby's then like, well, he killed all my friends. Like, no, I'm not going to let him go. And Ellie confesses. She's like, no, I killed them. But I didn't mean to hurt them. Which I was like, that's not true. You literally, you made Nora talk. And you, let's talk about Owen and Mel first. She can say, I didn't mean to hurt them, talking about Owen and Mel. Because sure, she shot Owen and inadvertently killed Mel, but that was more of a reflex thing because Owen, in his incredible idiocy, pulled a gun. So that is a little more bang bang reaction to where I think she can probably say, I didn't really mean to hurt them. But to say that about Nora is not true. She chased Nora screaming that she was going to kill her and then not inadvertently, but then tortured her to get information. So it just doesn't make sense. I guess she's saying Abby doesn't know about Nora. Maybe she knows she's missing, but she clearly knows about Owen and Mel. So maybe Ellie's just saying she didn't mean to kill those two specifically, but you came to the aquarium with bad intentions. You weren't there to, give them a hug and leave. It was about to get down to business there. So I didn't love that line either. Ellie then tells Abby that she knows why she killed Joel, that there's no cure because of, that Ellie is the one Abby wants, and just let him go, and Ellie will turn herself over to her, I guess. We then get such a good line from the game from Abby. Also, Caitlin Dever here had me feeling some type of way as Abby. She was powerful in this scene. And I had some questions about whether these two specifically would be able to lead the show. Not because they're two female leads of the show, but I hadn't seen them do it before. They did it. I have no issues with either Bella Ramsey and I guess I shouldn't say female lead because Bella Ramsey is non-binary. I had questions about these two, but they delivered. Any bad feelings I have about the season, which on the whole I don't really have, are not because of these two. They did great. But Abby tells Ellie that I let you live and you wasted it. And I love that line. I've always loved that line from the game, and it's perfectly delivered here by Caitlin Dever. We then hear Ellie say, no, and a gunshot goes off and it immediately cuts to black. So we don't know what happened to Ellie. We cut to Abby. Manny wakes her up, and we get Abby walking out into the stadium. We get the title card, Seattle Day 1. So it's clear that season 3 is going to pick up with Abby, and we're going to go through, excuse me, Abby's 3 days, the same 3 days in Seattle with Abby, see him from her point of view. Credits then roll. We are done with season 2 of The Last of Us. Now, though I have issues with how Ellie's being portrayed. I wish she was a little more capable. But if that's not the story they're trying to tell, okay, fine. I understand that, you kind of get a second crack at it and you want to tell a different story. All right, cool. Some of the stuff doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why she's flip flopping back and forth between, oh, I only care about getting this revenge for Joel, but also I want to save this random kid, but I won't go back to help Dina when I know she's injured. Also, I say that I would help Jesse if he was in trouble, but I won't go help Tommy when he actually is in trouble. I'm confused about the picture they're trying to paint with Ellie at this point. I wish we would have got more with Jesse and Ellie to kind of flesh out their relationship and maybe it not be so adversarial. Because, of course, I was sad when Jesse died because, like, he is a good person and he was just there to help Ellie out. But I don't know. I didn't love this episode. I would give this was probably my least favorite episode of the whole season, which sucks because it's the finale and you really want to go out on a high. And I am excited for season 3 to see the events from Abby's POV, but I think they took some risks narratively, and I just think they missed, in my opinion, here in the finale. And that sucks because, like I said, it's the last thing we're going to see for a couple years on this, and I don't know. It didn't really work for me narratively. Now, what I will say, performance-wise, incredible stuff from all of the actors on the show. There's really no one you could point to say, oh, they gave a bad performance. Fantastic performances all around. It has a very high production level, so it always looks really good. I'm all good with that. Surprise of the season, I would say, is Isabella Merced as Dina. Fantastic. Dina was already one of my favorite characters from the game, and she's amplified Dina through her performance. So great. I thought young Mazzino did a really good job as Jesse. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the season on the whole. Like I said, I would give it probably a 7.5 out of 10. If this finale would have nailed it, though, I think it could have been much higher. And I'm a little disappointed in the finale. Now, I'm in no way ready to just say like, oh, show sucks, I'm out, like blah blah blah. Because I don't think that. I think the season was good. I just don't think it was great. But with that, we have recapped the final episode of season 2 of The Last of Us. Won't be doing any of these moving forward, of course, because there won't be any episodes for probably 2-3 years, maybe, hopefully 2. Which is another thing. I get it that they're now making like movies for each episode, but like they've got to figure something out about being able to get these out quicker. And I don't mean that there needs to be more crunch or work people to death or anything, but there's got to be a better way to do this as opposed to having to wait 2 to 3, maybe 3 years in between season 2 and season 3. That sucks. So I'm hoping they're able to get it out sooner, but I mean, I guess take all the time that they need, make it good, but I wish there was a way to get it sooner. And maybe that's because I didn't love the finale as much. I kind of want the bad taste out of my mouth a little bit. But on the whole, like I said, I enjoyed the season. And yeah, I'm excited for season 3. We'll see what happens. But yeah, thank you all for watching today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel for some more gaming content. And I'll be making a Last of Us 2 video in the next couple of months. I don't want to put a time on it, but soon I'll be putting out that video. So be sure to subscribe to the channel to check out that video. But otherwise, I hope you all have a beautiful time, and I'll see you all in the next one.